The girl had never expected a day like this. What started as an ordinary morning had turned into a nightmare she couldn't shake. She had planned to spend the day running errands, meeting a friend for coffee, and maybe catching up on some much-needed rest. But instead, she found herself in a situation that felt terrifying and completely out of control. She had been walking through a part of the city she didn't know very well, distracted by her phone and music when she realized she had no idea how to get back. At first, it was just a little worry. She thought she could retrace her steps or ask someone for directions. But as minutes passed, the streets became emptier, and the familiar landmarks disappeared. She tried calling a friend, but the signal was weak and no one answered. Every turn she took seemed to lead her deeper into unknown territory. The feeling of being lost quickly turned into panic. Her heart raced. She tried to stay calm, reminding herself that she had handled challenges before. But this was different. She was alone, far from home, and completely unsure of what to do next. Each street looked the same, each building blending into the next, and the few people she saw seemed too preoccupied to notice her distress. She felt invisible, isolated, and utterly powerless. She paused at a small intersection, trying to collect her thoughts. Her phone battery was low, her calls had gone unanswered, and she realized she might be stuck there for hours if someone didn't help. A cold breeze ran through her, and she shivered not just from the chill, but from the growing fear that she might be trapped. Then almost instinctively, she did something she had never imagined herself doing. She opened her social media app and typed a desperate message. Not a normal post, not a casual check-in, but a plea for help. "I'm lost and alone. Please, if anyone can help, send help immediately," she wrote. She added her approximate location, hoping someone nearby would see it. She hesitated for a moment before sending it, her fingers trembling. It felt embarrassing to put her fear out in public, but she had no other options. After hitting send, she stood still, watching the notifications on her phone, hoping for a reply. Minutes dragged by like hours. Every sound of footsteps or passing car made her heart jump, thinking maybe it was someone coming to help. But it wasn't. She began to feel the weight of isolation pressing down on her, the sense of hopelessness growing. Just as despair began to take hold, a notification popped up. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw the names. Two of the biggest wrestling stars in the world had responded to her SOS. The Rock, John Cena. She stared at the screen in disbelief, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. Surely it was a mistake. Surely someone was playing a prank. Her fingers hovered over the phone, unsure whether to respond. Could it really be them? Why would they even notice her message? She had posted it on a general fan page, one among thousands of messages from people all over the world. And yet here were two icons she had watched on television and admired, reaching out to her personally. After a moment of hesitation, she typed back, her hands shaking. "Yes, it's me. I really need help. I'm lost and I don't know how to get home." She pressed send and held her breath, unsure if the response was real. Within moments, another message appeared. It was short, simple, and surprisingly human. "We see you. Stay where you are. We're going to help." The simplicity of it shocked her. These were celebrities she had always seen as larger than life, untouchable, and yet here they were, speaking to her with genuine concern and care. A wave of emotions hit her. Disbelief, excitement, relief, and still a lingering fear. She had to remind herself to stay calm and follow instructions. She realized that this was no ordinary situation. She was dealing with people who could help her in ways she had never imagined. But at the same time, she couldn't stop thinking about the logistics. How could two famous men, with schedules, fame, and thousands of obligations, be genuinely interested in helping someone like her? She typed back a quick update about her location, providing landmarks and descriptions of the surrounding streets. The responses she received were immediate and practical, not just empty words. They asked questions, clarified details, and reassured her that she would be safe. The personal attention they gave her was overwhelming. She felt as if someone was holding her hand, guiding her even from miles away. As she waited, she noticed small details around her she had missed before. A flickering streetlight, the faint hum of distant traffic, the shadows of buildings stretching across the pavement. Her fear was still there, but it was tempered by the knowledge that help was coming. She took deep breaths, trying to steady herself, feeling a fragile hope begin to grow. Minutes later, the conversation became more practical. They began instructing her on how to stay safe while waiting for help. "Stay in a well-lit area," one of them typed. "Keep your phone on and keep us updated." They were calm, patient, and insistent on making sure she understood every step. Their messages were simple, but the sincerity was unmistakable. She began to relax just a little. The fear that had been consuming her started to shift into cautious optimism. She realized that even though she had been terrified and alone, there were people in the world, people she had admired from afar, willing to step in and help without hesitation. The thought was almost surreal. As the minutes passed, she continued to update them on her surroundings. She described the color of the buildings, the shops nearby, and the few pedestrians passing by. Each message she sent was met with a response that showed attention to detail, patience, and genuine concern. It was astonishing to her that people of such fame could pause their own busy lives to focus entirely on her situation. She started to feel a strange connection with them, not because of their celebrity, but because of the human empathy they were showing. Their concern was not performative. It was real. Every instruction, every question, every reassuring message made her feel seen and cared for in a way she had never experienced before. Hours seemed to compress into minutes as they guided her. They didn't just tell her what to do. They engaged with her fears, encouraged her to stay calm, and shared small bits of humor to ease the tension. At one point, one of them sent a lighthearted message. "Don't worry. We won't let a lost street corner defeat you," she laughed, a genuine sound that felt strange and freeing after hours of tension. As the day progressed, the reality of her situation became clearer. She was entirely at their mercy, but in the best possible way. She was no longer alone. Every step she took was informed by their guidance, every decision validated by their attention. They weren't just... The girl could hardly believe what was happening. She was still standing on the corner of that unfamiliar street, her phone clutched tightly in her hand, the messages from The Rock and John Cena lighting up the screen. Each ping made her heart leap, each response felt personal, and yet it all seemed surreal. How could two of the most famous men in the world, whom she had watched on television and admired for years, actually be involved in helping her, a complete stranger? Her doubts lingered, and she admitted to herself that part of her expected it to be a prank or some kind of joke. She had shared her SOS publicly, after all, but the sincerity in their messages was undeniable. They weren't just saying comforting things. They were asking details about her surroundings, giving instructions on safety, and even telling her not to move from well-lit areas until help arrived. It was as if she could feel their focus, their attention through the screen. "Stay calm," one of them typed. "We're figuring out how to get to you safely. Don't move until we tell you exactly what to do." She obeyed immediately, her body tense with anticipation. She had no idea what they meant by getting to her, but the confidence in their words was strangely reassuring. She felt as though someone was holding her hand across the miles, guiding her through the fear that had been gripping her since the morning. As she waited, the messages continued. They asked her to describe landmarks near her, the direction of the streets, and any unusual activity. The questions were precise, practical, and focused entirely on her safety. She realized they were treating this like a real mission, not a casual interaction. That realization both comforted and intimidated her. It made her feel cared for, but it also reminded her that her situation was serious. The girl could feel her pulse racing as she described the area. "There's a small cafe on the corner, a green post box near it, and a parking lot across the street. The streetlights are flickering, and there's a bus stop a little further down." They responded immediately. "Good, that helps. Keep your phone on. Stay visible but safe. We're coordinating someone to come get you." She couldn't help the nervous laughter that escaped her. "You're seriously doing this? You're arranging help for me?" "Yes," came the reply. "Don't worry. Just follow our instructions." For a moment, she felt the absurdity of it. Two of the biggest stars in the world were personally making sure she would be safe, and yet the messages weren't boastful or performative. They were calm, focused, and human. She realized that fame didn't matter in that moment. What mattered was the care they were showing. Hours passed, or maybe only minutes. It was hard to tell. Time felt distorted when fear and anticipation are mixed together. The girl continued to report small changes in her surroundings, the passing cars, the few pedestrians, and even the occasional stray dog wandering the streets. Each detail, she realized, was crucial. Every piece of information helped them plan a rescue that would get her out safely. Then came the unexpected part. One of them suggested that she move a little closer to a nearby cafe, but only when they gave her the exact signal. They explained that a person would meet her there, someone she could trust, and that she should not approach anyone else until she received confirmation. Her mind raced with questions. What if it was a trick? What if the person they sent wasn't really coming for her? Her fear came back in waves, making her hesitate. But their calm guidance, the clear instructions, and the patience in their messages reminded her that she was not alone. She realized she had to trust them. Minutes later, she received precise instructions on how to move. Walk slowly. Keep your phone in your hand. Do not talk to anyone else. Look for a man in a blue jacket near the entrance. He will wave at you. Her hands shook, but she followed the directions. Every step felt surreal. She could feel the weight of the situation pressing down, the fear that something could go wrong. But at the same time, there was a strange sense of connection, a feeling that even across distance, someone was watching out for her. Finally, she saw him. A man in a blue jacket was standing near the cafe entrance, looking around casually. When he saw her, he waved, just as they had instructed. Her heart jumped. This was really happening. She had never felt so relieved in her life. Go to him, one of the messages read. He's here for you. Stay calm. She took a deep breath and walked toward the man. He smiled reassuringly, and when she reached him, he spoke gently. Hi, are you the one we're meeting? She nodded, her voice trembling. Yes, I think I'm supposed to follow you. Exactly. Let's get you to a safe place. She followed him, her steps careful, her eyes scanning the area, but the nervous tension began to ease. She was still frightened, but the guidance from The Rock and John Cena and the presence of the man waiting for her made the fear more manageable. As they moved, she kept updating the stars. I'm walking now. Everything looks okay. No one else is around. Good, came the reply. Keep going. Almost there. Her relief grew with each message. She realized that this wasn't just about being rescued. It was about the care and attention they had given her the entire time. They had turned her fear into a manageable path forward, showing patience, empathy, and human kindness that she had never expected from celebrities. When they reached a safer street, she was guided into a small cafe that had been arranged as a temporary waiting place. The man explained that someone would pick her up soon and that she should remain calm. She sat down, feeling her legs tremble from the adrenaline and fear. Her hands shook as she clutched her phone, scrolling through the messages. You're safe now, one of them typed. Take a few minutes, breathe, we're almost done. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the tension drain. Her fear was still there, but it was mixed with a growing sense of gratitude and awe. She couldn't believe the care, thoughtfulness, and effort these men had shown. They hadn't just given advice or sent generic messages. They had coordinated a rescue, personally attended to her safety, and done it all with patience and respect. Her mind wandered back to the first moments when she had sent her SOS. She remembered the desperation, the fear, the sense of hopelessness. And now she saw the full arc, from panic to safety, from isolation to connection, and from uncertainty to trust. The entire experience had been transformative, revealing not just her own courage, but the humanity of people she had admired from afar. She began to notice the small details around her, the soft hum of conversation in the cafe, the aroma of coffee and pastries, the warm light spilling from the windows. It all felt so ordinary, yet profoundly comforting. She realized that safety wasn't just about avoiding danger. It was about feeling seen, cared for, and guided through uncertainty. Her phone buzzed again. Someone is on the way to pick you up. Stay put and stay calm. You've done great. She nodded to herself, even though no one could see her. I can do this, she whispered. I'm almost there. The girl reflected on the unexpected kindness of the situation. She had assumed that celebrities lived in a distant world, one removed from ordinary human struggles. Yet here they were, showing care, empathy, and personal attention. She realized that fame didn't have to create distance. In fact, it could amplify. The girl sat in the small cafe, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of coffee that she barely tasted. Her heart still raced, though the initial panic had faded. The car ride was only a few minutes away, yet she felt as if she had been on edge for hours. She kept checking her phone for updates from The Rock and John Cena, who continued to guide her with precision and calm reassurance. The messages were simple, clear, and unpretentious, but somehow they carried immense weight. They made her feel safe even when everything around her had seemed dangerous just moments before. Then came a message that made her pause. "There's a small problem," it read. "The driver may face traffic, and we need you to stay in the cafe a little longer. Do not leave." Her stomach sank. She had been so close to leaving, to getting into the safety of the car, and now she was told to wait again. The fear that had started to subside returned in waves. She tried to calm herself, breathing deeply as the messages continued. "We know it's frustrating. Stay calm. You've done everything right. Help is on the way." She nodded to herself, even though no one could see her. She tried to focus on her surroundings. The quiet hum of conversation, the clinking of cups, the soft lighting. It was ordinary and mundane, yet in her mind it was charged with tension. Every passerby, every noise outside made her jump slightly. Her senses were heightened, a side effect of the adrenaline that still coursed through her veins. The next message offered a small dose of reassurance with a touch of humor. "Think of it like a video game level. You've made it through the hardest part. This is just the mini challenge before the final stage. You've got this." She smiled despite herself. The humor was unexpected, and it lightened the tension just enough to help her breathe. She replied with a short message thanking them for keeping her calm. In return came another simple instruction. "Keep your phone close. Keep your eyes on the door. We'll guide you the moment the car arrives." Time dragged on. The cafe seemed to stretch and shrink all at once. She sipped her coffee, trying to stay still, trying to appear calm while every nerve in her body screamed otherwise. She kept imagining scenarios. What if the car took a wrong turn? What if someone else arrived first? What if she misread the instructions? Fear gnawed at her, yet at the same time she felt a growing sense of trust. She had been following their guidance for hours, and it had kept her safe. Why would it fail now? Minutes later, she saw movement outside. A car slowly approached the curb in front of the cafe. Her pulse spiked. "The car is here," she typed instantly. "I see it." "Good," came the reply. "Wait for a moment. Make sure no one is around. Then go." She watched carefully. The street seemed quiet and the sidewalk was mostly empty. She grabbed her bag, checked that her phone was fully charged, and took a deep breath. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to move with purpose. She opened the door, stepped onto the sidewalk, and moved toward the vehicle. As she approached, a man inside the car rolled down the window. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, her voice shaking. The door opened and she climbed in. The seatbelt clicked into place and she felt a wave of relief wash over her. She was finally moving, finally out of the streets that had seemed so hostile. But even as she felt safety, the tension wasn't completely gone. Her mind raced with questions. What if something went wrong during the drive? What if they took a wrong turn? What if... "Relax," came a message from the rock. "You're safe. Keep your seatbelt on, and we'll be guiding you all the way." It was surreal to think that they were monitoring her situation from somewhere far away, yet she felt their presence like a protective shield. Every word, every instruction, reinforced her sense of security. She realized how extraordinary it was that they were dedicating their time and attention to someone they didn't even know, and she felt a profound mix of gratitude, awe, and disbelief. The drive was tense. The girl watched the streets fly by outside the window, noting familiar landmarks she didn't recognize, following instructions carefully. The man driving occasionally glanced at her, offering reassurances but otherwise remained focused on the road. Every few minutes she sent updates to The Rock and Cena, and their responses were immediate. "Stay focused on the door. Ignore distractions," one message read. "Almost there. You're doing great." The words repeated in her mind like a mantra, helping her push past fear. She realized that her calm wasn't coming just from the car or the driver, or even the physical safety. It was coming from knowing that someone she trusted, someone she admired, was paying attention, guiding her, and making sure she would be okay. Halfway through the journey, traffic slowed to a crawl. Her stomach knotted as the car inched forward. "It's okay," she typed. "We're still moving, but slowly." "We see it," came the quick reply. "Stay calm. The delay is minor. Focus on your breathing. You're almost at the safe zone." The girl closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. She felt the tension in her shoulders loosen slightly. Even though the situation was far from over, the guidance, the humor, and the calmness in the messages reminded her that she could handle it. They weren't just giving instructions. They were teaching her to stay composed under pressure, to trust the process and to remain present despite fear. The car finally turned into a quiet street, away from the busier roads. Her relief spiked, but she stayed cautious. Every detail still mattered. She followed the messages carefully, keeping her eyes on the surroundings, ready to react if needed. "There's the building," one message read. "Walk carefully to the entrance. You're safe now, but stay alert until inside." She stepped out of the car, feeling her legs shake slightly. The building before her looked ordinary, almost unremarkable, but it had been chosen for its safety and accessibility. A door opened and a staff member greeted her with a warm smile, confirming that she had arrived at the secure location. "You're safe now," the man said. "Please follow me inside." Inside, she found a quiet lounge area, well lit and comfortable. She sank into a chair, feeling exhaustion and relief collide. Her hands were still trembling, but she had made it. The journey, the fear, the uncertainty, all of it had led to this moment. She looked at her phone and saw messages from The Rock and John Cena. "You're incredible. You handled everything perfectly. Take a moment to rest. We're still here if you need us." Her chest tightened with emotion. She had never experienced anything like this. The fear, the courage, the careful navigation and the constant guidance had been intense, yet it had also been transformative. She realized that bravery didn't mean the absence of fear. It meant acting despite it, and she had done exactly that. As she rested, the messages continued. They asked about her needs, offered comfort, and even included small bits of humor to lighten the tension. She laughed quietly at one message. "We promise no one will challenge you to a wrestling match. You're safe." Despite the humor, the sincerity behind every word was unmistakable. These weren't just public figures responding to a fan. These were humans reaching out with care, attention, and patience. Their involvement had turned a terrifying day into a story of connection, trust, and unexpected kindness. The girl sat in the back seat of the car, staring out the window at the passing streets. The city lights blurred as her thoughts raced faster than the vehicle moving through the quiet night. Her hands were still slightly trembling from the adrenaline of the day, and her chest felt tight, a mix of lingering fear and the growing relief that she was finally moving toward safety. The messages from The Rock and John Cena were constant, calm, and reassuring, giving her the confidence she needed to stay composed. "Almost there." One of the messages read, "You've done amazing. Stay focused. Keep your phone close." She clutched her bag tightly, checking her phone again, making sure the connection stayed strong. She knew this wasn't just a normal situation. It was extraordinary. They weren't just watching her from afar. They were guiding her in real time, orchestrating every step to ensure her safety. And that thought filled her with awe. How could two of the biggest stars in the world take this level of personal care for someone they didn't even know? As the car turned down a quiet street, the girl noticed shadows moving along the sidewalks. Her nerves shot up again. She typed a quick update. "There are some people on the sidewalk. They look like they're just walking, but I'm nervous." "Good observation." The reply came almost immediately. "Do not engage with anyone. Keep your distance. Ignore distractions. We see everything and will guide you when it's safe." Her breathing grew steadier as she followed instructions. She realized that the calm, precise guidance they had given her from the very beginning was helping her think clearly. Without their messages, she would have been lost in panic. Instead, she was moving deliberately, aware of her surroundings and maintaining her composure despite the tension. Suddenly, the car slowed. "Traffic ahead. Minor delay," came the next message. "Stay calm. You're almost there." She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to keep her fear at bay. Every second felt drawn out, but she reminded herself that every instruction, every piece of guidance was designed to keep her safe. Her pulse continued to race, but she was learning to channel her energy into focus rather than panic. After a few tense minutes, the car turned into an even quieter street. It was lined with trees, the streetlights casting long shadows across the pavement. Her stomach tightened. She had never felt so aware of every sound, every movement around her. Then a voice came from the driver, calm and reassuring. "We're almost at the safe point. Just a few more steps." She nodded to herself even though no one could see her. She kept her eyes on the door, following the instructions from The Rock and John Cena. They had been guiding her this entire time, their words constant and grounding. Every detail they asked about, every precaution they instructed felt like a lifeline. When the car stopped, she saw a figure waiting near the entrance. He waved subtly, confirming he was the person she was supposed to meet. Her pulse spiked. She had been prepared for anything, yet seeing him there in person made the situation feel both real and surreal. "Stay calm," one message read. "Go to him slowly. Watch your surroundings. You're safe." The girl stepped out of the car, her legs shaking slightly, and walked carefully toward the man. He smiled, a warm, reassuring smile, and nodded. "You're okay. Just follow me inside." She obeyed, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. The building they entered was simple but secure, with a reception area staffed by people who seemed calm and professional. The atmosphere was designed to put her at ease. She sank into a chair, her body finally starting to relax, though the adrenaline still coursed through her. "Take a moment," came a message. "You've done everything right. We're proud of you." Her chest tightened with emotion. She had never felt this level of care from anyone before, let alone from two of the most famous people in the world. They weren't just responding. They were actively ensuring her safety, thinking through every detail, every possible risk, and the sheer thoughtfulness of it overwhelmed her. As she settled in, the messages continued. "We're arranging someone to escort you to your final safe location. Stay where you are. Do not leave the room. Ignore distractions." Minutes felt like hours. She sipped her coffee slowly, trying to steady her nerves. Every sound outside, every passing shadow made her alert, but she clung to the instructions. They were her anchor, guiding her through the last leg of the ordeal. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. "Someone will meet you at the door in 2 minutes. Stand by." She felt her heart leap. 2 minutes felt like an eternity. She watched the door carefully, noticing the quiet sounds outside. Footsteps, the hum of a distant car, the soft rustle of leaves. Her senses were heightened to a degree she had never experienced before. Then she saw him. A man in casual clothing with a calm demeanor and a reassuring presence appeared at the door. He waved subtly, just as instructed. She took a deep breath, feeling both fear and hope intertwined. "Walk carefully to him," the message read. "You're safe now, but stay alert until you're inside the next building." The girl followed the instructions precisely. Her legs shook slightly, but she forced herself to walk steadily. The man greeted her with a calm, reassuring tone. "Hi, are you ready to come with me?" "Yes," she said, her voice trembling slightly. He nodded and extended a hand. She took it, feeling the warmth and reassurance in the simple gesture. Every step felt surreal, but she reminded herself to follow the guidance she had been given all day. Inside the building, she found a quiet, well-lit area designed for comfort and security. She sank into a chair, finally feeling the weight of the fear lift slightly. Her hands were still trembling, but she felt a profound sense of relief. Messages from The Rock and John Cena continued to arrive. "You're incredible," one read. "You stayed calm, followed instructions, and handled everything perfectly. Take a moment to rest. We'll be here if you need us." Her chest tightened as she read the words. The fear of the day, the hours of uncertainty, the adrenaline that had kept her alert, all of it had led to this moment. And she realized that their guidance had been more than just instructions. It had been a lesson in trust, courage, and human connection. She reflected on how much she had learned in just one day. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was acting despite fear. Trust wasn't blind. It was following guidance while remaining aware and alert. And kindness could come from unexpected places, even from people who seemed larger than life. The girl's mind wandered back to the first moment she had sent the SOS. The desperation, the fear, the sense of being completely alone, it had all seemed insurmountable. And yet here she was, safe, guided, and cared for by people she had admired from afar. The experience had transformed her, not just physically but emotionally, teaching her lessons she knew she would carry for the rest of her life. Minutes later, she received another message. "Your final escort will arrive shortly. Stay where you are. Everything is prepared for you to reach safety." She nodded to herself, even though no. The girl finally stepped out of the car, her feet feeling light and heavy at the same time. The journey, which had begun with panic and uncertainty, had reached a point where relief and exhaustion collided. She looked around at the building where she had been brought in secure, quiet, and designed for comfort. The sense of safety was almost overwhelming, as if her body finally realized it could relax after hours of tension. She took a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill her lungs. The fear that had gripped her all day was still faintly there, a shadow lingering in the corners of her mind, but it was dwarfed by a powerful sense of gratitude. She had made it through. She had survived. And she had been helped in ways she could never have imagined. Her phone buzzed again. She almost jumped, but then she saw the familiar names. The Rock and John Cena. The messages were simple, reassuring, and calm as always. "You're safe now. Take a moment to breathe. Everything is okay. You've done amazing." Her eyes filled with tears. She had never experienced such care and attention, not from anyone in her life, let alone from people she had admired from afar. They had guided her through fear, uncertainty, and danger with patience, calmness, and empathy. Their actions had been extraordinary, not because of fame or status, but because they were genuinely human. The girl took a seat in the lounge area of the building. The staff there were polite, professional, and kind, making her feel welcome and secure. She sipped a cup of tea, her hands trembling slightly as the warmth spread through her body. The day's events had left her drained, but the relief, gratitude, and awe coursing through her mind made her feel alive in a new way. She reflected on how it had all started. A walk through an unfamiliar part of the city, a few wrong turns, and a growing sense of panic. At the time, it had felt like the world was closing in on her and she had no one to turn to. But a single decision, sending an SOS message, had changed everything. That small act of courage had reached people she had never dreamed would notice, and they had responded in ways she could never have imagined. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. "Take your time. We're still here if you need us. Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite fear. You've done exactly that." She smiled through her tears. The words were simple, but their impact was profound. She realized that the experience had not just been about reaching safety. It had been a lesson in trust, bravery, and human kindness. She had learned that reaching out, asking for help, and trusting guidance could transform fear into safety and anxiety into calm. Minutes passed. She stayed in the lounge, allowing herself to absorb the quiet and the safety around her. She thought about how extraordinary it was that two people she had admired from television and wrestling arenas, icons who seemed untouchable, had shown her care, attention, and humanity in a way that was tangible and real. They had coordinated every detail, guided her step by step, and reassured her throughout the ordeal. And they had done it simply because it was the right thing to do. Her mind wandered to the moments in the car, when every street, every shadow, and every passerby had felt like a potential threat. She remembered how tense she had been, how every nerve in her body had been alert, and how fear had seemed almost unbearable. Yet she had trusted their guidance. She had followed instructions carefully, and that trust had carried her through. She realized that trust was not blind. It was informed by clarity, guidance, and reassurance. She had felt fear, yes, but she had also been empowered by the constant communication, the calm messages, and the precise instructions. She had not been passive. She had been an active participant in her own rescue, and that thought gave her a sense of pride she hadn't anticipated. Her phone buzzed again, and she hesitated before opening it. She knew it would be from The Rock or John Cena, and she felt a mix of anticipation and gratitude. "You've done incredibly well," the message read. "Take this time to rest. We're proud of you. You handled everything perfectly. Never underestimate the courage you showed today." Tears streamed down her face. She typed a short response thanking them for their guidance, patience, and care. She couldn't fully express what their involvement had meant to her. It wasn't just that they had ensured her physical safety. They had also lifted her spirit, restored her sense of agency, and reminded her of the goodness that exists in the world. She leaned back in the chair, feeling the exhaustion settle into her bones. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving her body heavy, but her mind was racing with reflections and realizations. She thought about fear and courage, about trust and connection, and about the extraordinary kindness she had been shown by two people she had never met in person. The experience had changed her understanding of human possibility, of empathy, and of what it meant to care for another person. As she sat quietly, the staff brought her a light snack and more tea. She accepted it, grateful for the comfort, and sipped slowly, allowing the warmth to calm her trembling hands. She glanced at her phone again. Another message had arrived. "Remember, the world is full of people capable of great kindness. You've experienced it firsthand today. Carry it forward. You've inspired us too, she smiled softly. Inspired them, she thought. She realized that her courage, her willingness to reach out, and her ability to stay calm had created a connection, even across distance and social boundaries. It was a reminder that bravery could ripple outward, affecting not just one life but many. Hours seemed to pass as she rested, reflecting on the ordeal and the lessons it had taught her. She thought about the early moments of panic when she had felt alone, lost, and unsure of what to do. And she thought about how those moments had led her to send a message, a small, desperate plea for help that had reached people capable of changing her situation entirely. She realized that sometimes the most profound acts of courage are the simplest, asking for help when you need it, trusting guidance when it is offered, and holding on even when fear feels overwhelming. Her SOS had been a small act, but it had made all the difference. The staff eventually informed her that she would be taken to a safe place for the night, where she could rest properly and recover. She followed their instructions carefully, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering tension. Every step was still guided by the knowledge that The Rock and Cena were monitoring, providing reassurance and ensuring her safety. In the car, she leaned back in her seat and let herself relax for the first time. The city lights passed by, but she didn't feel the tension she had felt earlier. She felt calm, grounded, and safe, knowing that she had reached this point through a combination of her own courage and the guidance she had received. Her phone buzzed one final time for the night. Rest now. You're safe. You've shown courage and resilience. You've inspired us. Good night. She closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. Good night. Safe, courage, resilience, inspired. They were not just words. They were affirmations of what she had achieved, what she had endured, and what she had become through the ordeal. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and relief, a recognition that the day's events had been terrifying but also extraordinary. As she drifted into a light sleep in the car, she thought about how this experience would stay with her forever. She would remember the fear, the panic, and the uncertainty, but she would also remember the courage, the guidance, and the human kindness that had carried her through. She had experienced something rare and profound, the willingness of others to step into her life, not for fame or recognition, but simply to help another human being. When she arrived at the safe place, the staff helped her inside, ensuring she had everything she needed for the night. She settled into a comfortable bed, exhausted but grateful. Her phone lay beside her, silent now, the messages from The Rock and Cena still fresh in her mind. She reflected on how the day had unfolded, the panic, the SOS, the guidance, the obstacles, and finally the safe arrival. She realized that life could change in an instant. A simple decision, a small act of courage, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. And sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. People whose names you recognize, whose faces you admire, and yet who remind you that behind fame and status lies the capacity for genuine human care. Before she drifted off to sleep, she whispered a quiet thank you to the universe, to the people who had guided her, and to herself for staying strong. She knew that she had survived not just because of guidance, but because of her own courage, awareness, and willingness to trust. And she also knew that she had been part of something remarkable, an experience that had transformed fear into safety, isolation into connection, and panic into empowerment. The girl closed her eyes, feeling the exhaustion and relief wash over her. The day had begun in fear and uncertainty, but it ended in safety, gratitude, and reflection. She had learned that courage was real, that kindness existed in the world, and that human connection could appear when it was needed most, even from people she had never imagined reaching her in such a profound way. For the first time in hours, she slept deeply, peacefully, and completely, knowing that she had survived the ordeal and had been shown a level of care and humanity that would stay with her forever. One could see her. She felt exhausted but alert. Every step from this point forward needed to be careful, deliberate, and calm. She realized that the day had tested her in ways she had never imagined. Her courage, her ability to trust, and her composure under pressure. Finally, the door opened, and a vehicle arrived to take her to her final destination. She